Good day. This is Ward Harriman, AE6TY. Today's topic is a new functionality in 18.1. This is addressing the need to draw graphs on the square chart which are independent of the variables being swept. To do this, one first needs to define what is called a canvas. And to define a canvas, I simply say and I need a name, in this case, that must be either xy1 or xy2. I'm going to say 1. Now I need the label for the x-axis, so I'm going to say x label. The next parameter is what the value of x at the center of the graph, so I'm going to say x center. And the next is the scale per grid on the x-axis, and then the equivalent for the y-axis. So once I've defined the canvas properties, I can use the normal plot command and specify that canvas as the axis. So I can say, let's just plot lc1.z on the xy1 axis. Now you'll see that I have two sets of things. I'm going to turn off the normal plotting. And I need to come up here and set some values. And here is Zn plotted on the XY canvas. Here's the X label. This says what the X value is. Here's the Y label is up here. These can be any string, but short ones are better because the characters end up larger. It's important to note that markers work, but markers are a little different now in that there's two values at the end which have to be reported. As with other things, I can move them around by changing the megahertz. Zooming is a little different. I don't have it fully integrated back to the normal mouse-based zooming. So in order to zoom, one would simply play with this parameter. I'm going to use the wheel. Notice that it always zooms around the center. I can pan by changing the center. It's not as convenient as the fully integrated version, but it's usable at this point, particularly if you know more or less what you want the grid and the center to be. You'll notice that there's no well-defined left-hand margin here. So for example, in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some amount. It always shows the biggest chart that it can, but you'll notice that if I turn on the other kind of plotting, the amount that's shown is less, but it's still square, still has the same basic properties. It's just showing you less of the graph. You can add a second canvas, of course. Let's do that. This is going to be 2, 2. And let's plot something else. How about LC2 on Y2? And again, I have to go back and set these to be something. Let's make them different. And here you see LC2 in pink. Now, I might want to change the scale here to make it fit a little better. And of course I could pan this. To make it fit a little nicer. Now, we can see here that I have lots and lots of parameters, and it's starting to squeeze to be fairly small. And in order to manipulate them, sometimes you have to make the screen bigger or the circuit bigger in order to make them usable. SimSmith has a way to fix that by using an extended block. And when I use the extended block, it moves the parameters from being underneath G to being down here in this usually unused space. So now you can see that even if I make the circuit quite small, this area is still usable. And if I make it very small, this will fill as necessary or as needed with larger fonts that you can manipulate. So there you have a basic XY plotting capability on the square chart. It's preliminary functionality. I hope to go back and put in better panning and zooming. But a few caveats need to be pointed out. This is preliminary work. It will probably change. You can use both this plotting and the normal plotting. When you do that, you'll see that the grid for power and SWR, for example, is not being shown back there. I suppress it so that you don't get multiple vertical lines to confuse you. You can't control how far, you can't control precisely what the left, right, top, and bottom margins are. It basically shows as much as the graph as it can. And there's no guarding against using the XY1 or XY2 axis in some other plot. So hopefully that's useful. Few of us need to plot XY things, and we have to kind of fool the software into believing that it's sweeping a parameter that it's not sweeping. And this capability does away with that need to be clever. This is Ward Harriman, 8E6TY. Thanks for watching, and thanks for using SimSmith.